Hi everyone who's joined out here. My name is Stuti Changle and I'm the author of the books You Only Live Once and On the Open Road. And I'm super excited to be here sharing my story via this platform. By the way, Shrewd Talks really wanted me to tell, all the challenges, all the difficulties that I've been through. But I'm going to tell you a story where you're going to enjoy because, of course, every story is packed with the good and the bad, and so is mine. So, yeah, on that note, let me start with my story. I always wanted to be a writer, and it's not that someday I had an epiphany that, okay, writing is something that I want to do for my entire life. I always knew. So, that's a little different story out here because it's not that I realized it very later on in my life that I wanted to do this. However, despite knowing that writing is something that I want to do, for a very long time, I was not having the courage to follow this or, to do this. And the reason was that I come from India. I come from a very middle class family, and my parents always believed that working in the corporate sector or working for the government was the best kind of job that you could have, and there was no other option. And pretty much for any other sibling, and pretty much for every other cousin in our entire family. So they really wanted us to become engineers, doctors, all these STEM professions, and something which they can, share with their friends and with their relatives over dinner and tell them, okay, my daughter is doing this, my son is doing this, and we are super proud of them. But in my case, I wanted to be a writer, and again, to convince them was not the easiest part in this story, but it was right about 2016 that I realized how much I wanted to be a writer, and no matter what happens, I'm not going to look back. So, my story starts back in 1992 when I was born, but that part of the story is not very significant. So, just another girl who went to school, who completed her schooling, and in 11th and 12th, she was not so sure what she wanted to do. So, I took maths, PCM, and that's pretty much the story of a lot of youth out there. We don't know, and then we see what our more successful siblings are doing, and we sort of just follow their footsteps, and that's what I did. After 12th, I got into an engineering college and I completed my degree in computer science and engineering. uh, I was a very bright student, never had a difficulty finding job with my engineering thing as well. I got my very first job in an IT company, but I realized that this is not something that I want to do. But at the same time, I was not very sure that how I'm going to pursue writing. And that's where I thought that let me buy some time for myself. And I bought that time for myself. In the name of MBA degree, I would say that was again a forced decision I took because I was just buying time to sort of understand that what is it that I exactly want to do and how am I going to be successful at that. Finally, when my MBA degree also went through, and I came out with flying colors, as in, I got a job again. This time I was in sales and I worked for 2 months in 2016. Exactly, this is where I realized that, okay, now enough of buying that time for yourself, enough of telling yourself that, okay, this is not something uh, that you want to do. Writing is something that you want to do, and please take it up seriously. And it was some sort of self talk which happened. I used to come back from office, I used to look into the mirror, and I used to tell myself that why am I doing this to myself? Why don't I have the courage? And the answer was a clear, simple point that it's very hard to find courage when people around you are not so sure of you becoming a writer, are pretty sure of you becoming something else, and to tell yourself that it does not matter and I'm going to listen to myself. I think that difference happened back in 2016, and I took the plunge. I quit my job and I came back to Gurgaon. So my job was in Bombay, Mumbai exactly. And I came back to Gurgaon because I knew that with no running income, I won't be able to support myself in that city. And since I had not told my parents yet, I couldn't even ask them for money. And the last thing that I wanted to do was, go back to them and ask for money and prove it that, yes, you were right. If I stop working or if I quit my job, definitely I'm going to be on the road and my life's going to be a mess. And I didn't want to go back and face that big fear of mine, facing my parents. So I never went back actually. When I came to Gurgaon, I started living with my friends. I understood that my savings are going to deplete in some point of time. And at that time, I did realize that no matter how many Bollywood movies tell you to quit your job, or how many blogs tell you to go out and explore the world, and how many uh, a number of YouTube channels tell you to, just travel and, explore and do things that I wanted to at that time. Money is the hard reality. Like, it is all possible if you have money, and none of it is possible if you don't. So it is very, very important to be earning. And I realized that if a 9 to 5 job is something that I cannot do, because I wanted more time to consume good content, to write good content, what I can do is probably go ahead and make up a career as a freelancer. And while I'll have the flexibility to write my book, I'll also have the little money that's required to sustain in life. And exactly that is where I started taking up freelance assignments back in 2016 and started writing my first book, On the Open Road, parallelly. I finished On the Open Road in 2017, but that was not the end of it. That was not the end of journey. I thought that once I'm done with the book, I'm going to get published and lots of people are going to read my book, and then I'll be super famous and super successful and I'll have all the money that I want, and I would have to take up or, do any more gigs or, freelance projects. But it really doesn't happen that ways in life, is all I can tell you. After finishing my book, I wrote to a lot of publishers and I never heard back from any. Like, I used to put out these emailers with my script, with everything that I wanted to pitch to them, that, okay, this is an amazing book. People are going to love it. Please give me a chance. But that did not happen. And that was a time I would call a little dark phase of my life, because after giving in so much to my passion, after giving in so much to that dream career, or that dream that I wanted to realize of becoming a writer, I was not able to even get my first book published. And that is where I think I told my family about everything that's happened. And much to my surprise, yes, I'm focusing that, they were pretty supportive and they were pretty happy that I did this. And they were very sad about the fact that why did I have to hide this for so long? Why couldn't I tell them earlier that, mom, dad, this is something that I want to do and I would do. So exactly that is where I realized that people you love, people who are close to you, your community, your first five, whatever you call it really matters. Having them by your side is just another feeling. I mean, you should have someone by your side, and I was missing that feeling all along, because I was taking all the decisions by myself, and I was just blaming myself for things that were happening. I was not blaming myself for the things that were not happening. Like, it was just about me in all this time. But when I got them into the picture, they also started giving me inputs. And then it was exactly my brother and my mother who told me that, why don't you go ahead and publish this book as an ebook? We've heard of this competition, Pen to Publish, that Amazon Kindle is running this year, and I think it's a good chance for you to be heard. So why don't you go ahead and publish your book out there? And I told them, no, I really want my book as a paperback. That's an ebook thing. I don't want to get into that. But they were pretty sure that, Suti, you write so well. If you go via that medium, the medium does not matter. It's a story that matters, and your story is going to get out, and you should be happy about that. So after, you know, hearing them, after having seen that confidence in them that they had for me, I also decided that, okay, I mean, let me do this, let me try this out. What will happen? I mean, the worst case scenario, the paper book back might never come out. And it's fine. And with my second book, I'm going to do that. So it's not the last book that I've written. Let me give it a try. And that is how I published my first book on the open road as a Kindle book on Amazon. And the book, but to my surprise, got pretty decent response, which made me also publish a paperback later on. And 1 year passed by after this little, I would say, this little achievement that I had in my kitty. And I started writing my second book. Like, in the meanwhile, I was still writing my second book. And in 2020, I published my second book. So, all this while, like from 2016 to 2020, and since it was mid 2016, mid 2020, um, all these years, I did not absolutely have a traditional publisher. I was just writing out what I wanted to. I was writing blogs, I was writing for freelance. On freelance basis for companies. I was also publishing these books as self-published books because I was the one who was publishing them. Like, I did not really have a huge publisher to back my efforts. But one thing that never changed was that I decided not to give up. I was 100% sure that one day I will have a publisher. One day I'll have everything that I've dreamt of. And the only thing that I have to do is keep on going, and not stopping. And that is something I did all these years. So while these years were very difficult, the kind of learnings that I've had are also very huge, because it's been exponential. Like, even if I was working for a company, my growth would have been linear, but here my growth was exponential, because day in day out I was trying to navigate some new challenge. And I think when you get a chance to navigate so many challenges in life, eventually you become a very strong person, because you know that you've been through this, you've done that, and it's just happening again, and you have to do this, and you can do this. So let's come to 2020 now, when I had already written my second book, still not clear how to publish it, still don't have a traditional publisher. And You Only Live Once is the name of my second book, and I wrote it and I self-published it, and I started selling it via Amazon, Flipkart. So ideally, I was the person who used to write the book, sign the book, buy the packaging materials from the market, pack the book for you all, like if my readers are watching this, and I used to sell it via Amazon and Flipkart. So basically, I was the seller. And each and every copy I've sold on my own. Of course, not to mention, I had a lot of people in this journey who've helped me. It's never a one-person effort. The point that I'm trying to make when I say one person is that I really did not have a traditional publisher, or an operations team, or a marketing team, or a sales team. It was all me running it in-house from my apartment back in Delhi. And I mean, that book, a lockdown happened, and suddenly the lockdown was lifted, the first lockdown. This is again the later second half of the year 2020. And suddenly the book started doing so well. It was selling so many copies that I couldn't even pack the number of copies that were selling every day. And it was pretty interesting, the way things turned out. And everybody tells me, oh my God, Stuti, your second book was an overnight bestseller. Oh my God, it's so lucky. It's such an amazing thing to have an overnight bestseller. And the book was actually termed overnight bestseller by a lot of readers and a lot of people in the community. But I'll tell you what, that book was not an overnight bestseller. Not really. Because all that people could see was You Only Live Once. Nobody knew the kind of effort that, went in the back end, or the kind of effort that went for years before You Only Live Once came. And I think it all just summed up. It was not an overnight thing. It all just summed up, all that hard work, all that readers that I had gotten from my first book, so many people who had known me with my first book, a lot of things, skills that I learned with my first book, which is, being a marketer, being the one who's selling it, understanding how the operations work in this industry. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. So the thing is that it was not an overnight bestseller. Everything just came or aligned in the year 2020, and then the story uh, is a story that still doesn't have a happy ending. The story has to go on, but the amazing thing that happened is that my all-time dream of having a traditional publisher come to me and back my books and back my content happened. I was approached by multiple publishers by the end of 2020, and eventually I closed a 3 book deal with Penguin Random House, and the 2 books are out already. The third book's gonna come very soon in 2021, and my dream, my long, long, long dream of reaching out to thousands of readers came true, because my second book is officially a national bestseller, and it has sold so many copies, it has reached so many people, it has changed so many lives. So in the beginning, when I started out in this journey, I never knew that what is it that I exactly wanted to do. I only knew that I wanted to write books and that I was a writer. But I think in this journey, something that became very clear for me was the purpose that I'm living for every day. And that is, I am a seeker of experiences, and I'm out on a journey to share life changing stories. And at that time, I gave myself a mission, I gave myself a motto that you have to write life changing stories for people. And the stories doesn't have to be these stories that people read and forget, but stories that kind of have an impact in their lives and that they benefit from whenever they go back to. And that is exactly what I've done with my books, You Only Live Once and On the Open Road, and the third book, which is gonna come soon. And this is my journey. This is me telling you how not to give up in life. So, if I have to share the biggest lesson that I've personally had in this journey, is that there are some career, there's some career options, there's some professions, or there's some life-related things where perseverance is the key. Like, you can't stop, you have to keep on going, you have to keep on putting your efforts, because the results really don't come in overnight. And I think I am a story of perseverance, or my story is the story of perseverance, because the only thing that has been constant all these years is the fact that I was pretty constant with the efforts that I made with writing the book and publishing the book. And no matter what the outcome was in the beginning, I did not give up, because I just wanted to be successful. I just wanted this to be a successful thing. And I had told myself that even if I have to write like on maybe 4 or 5 books before reaching that stage, I'm going to do that for myself, because I love writing and this is my dream and I have to do that. So, on that note, I'd like to sign off by saying that. Persevere in life. Wherever you are, things will not happen overnight, they generally don't. And there's so many things that the content on the internet wants to tell you to do, but one thing that you can do for yourself is not give up and persevere hard. Because you know people can move mountains if they persevere, they say, and it's true. I mean, there's a reason why it's an age old adage and people have been saying it for so long. And that does really happen. If you don't give up, if you want to do something, it is going to take time, it is not going to happen overnight. But if you're so passionate about it, then you shouldn't get bored in the journey. And then you should not also give up, because eventually you're expecting certain thing and it will happen. And trust me, if it doesn't happen in the worst case scenario, always remember, it's about the journey, it's not about the destination. Somebody wants to pursue something because they want to live it every day. It's not about that one junction where you want to reach, because that one junction is going to happen only once in a lifetime or thrice in a lifetime, or probably only countable number of times in a lifetime. But if you love the journey, then innumerous days of your life that you can't even count on your fingers are going to be filled with joy. And that's the thing one should be chasing, the joy of living life on their own terms, the joy of doing what they want to do, the joy of building a career or profession in the field where you love to do it, where you are not forced to do it, and then every day becomes joyful for you. And I think that should be the pursuit of life. So, on that note, I think I want to conclude my story. And I wish you all the best on the journey of your lives. Bye bye.